My hair is thinning in 3 words. I would say hairy, sexy, stupid.
Sad, horny, scary.
Hairy, come play.
Surreal, sexy, hilarious.
Deep, so deep. Journey, we really go on a journey. And it's a rave party.
Rave party's hyphenated.
So my hair is thinning is quite like a dark or a black kind of comedy about someone's journey through grief, paralleled to the Anthony's hair loss.
The character Anthony, who is very much a version of me, on stage loses his fiancée, Jamie, as I did, but he kind of embarks on this very strange journey of wanting to regrow his hair to try and fix something, fix a feeling that he has that he can't quite put his finger on. As he kind of steps into the world of hair regrowth and also steps back out into the real world, he starts to get lost in this very strange, very surreal, very expressionistic landscape of sex, and there's a haunting of with a hair monster, and it all is this kind of very overwhelming, very scary, very sexy, bit horny thing happening to him that he doesn't really understand, but he desperately wants to.
So we're sort of going through this like funny discovery through heavy experiences to find some sort of lightness in life.
We've had a few visual reference points to do with glitch and analog TVs, and I've been kind of working on this idea of recursive feedback loops, creating lots of textures, using projection to kind of augment and modify the structure of the room, making the walls kind of move and shift, and playing with the idea of what is real and what isn't real from, I guess, the audience's perspective while they're watching.
So I guess the music also feeds on a lot of those ideas. What's been a really fun thing for me has been working with this sort of 80s aesthetic. So I think having that as a starting point, particularly for their hair meditations, is quite fun. But then in a similar way as the visuals, they start sort of fragmenting, and the music will sound like it's coming out of an old speaker, and then suddenly there'll be a high fidelity, intrusive thought that suddenly just cuts through.
The process feels very collaborative at the moment. So it feels like a lot of people kind of all mulling over it in our own ways and then bringing forth kind of suggestions, offers, and kind of bouncing off each other at the moment.
All of these technical elements coming together seemingly very easily. It's amazing. And Clara kind of funneling it all into whatever is going to happen next is like pretty amazing, pretty special.
I've got a couple of devices that I've put on stage. So first of all is it's like a ultrasonic hand sensor. So I can place it in particular spots around the room so that particularly the hair monster can trigger these sensors. And then the sensors are connected to a propeller. It's in front of a guitar that we've just covered in wigs. Future, ideally it's sort of embedded in the stage, and we can create a bit of a string device that's hidden and almost looks like hair in its own right. And the second one that I'm using, it's just a little contact microphone, and just having that stuck inside the clothing, and that really, when you sort of crank the volume and compress it a lot, when hands move along fabric or through hair, it just really picks up those high frequency sort of brushing and fabric moving sounds. You know, you can't really hear a wig from 5 meters away, but once you put one of those sensors in there, it's suddenly you can just hear every single follicle moving, and that's a really, really powerful audio effect.
We're not doing traditional projection where you create everything kind of in a studio. We're building everything with the performers and with the whole creative team. I'm using techniques that kind of come from more like video game or interactive technology backgrounds and applying them in, I guess, a kind of different way that I'm used to for theatrical performances. So we're able to work with the actors in the room to capture emotion or to inject a lot of physicality into what's happening on the projections themselves.
You know, grief is universal like love, right? At some point, we're all going to have an experience of it, and it's going to be different. And you were just talking about, you know, grief can morph, and it can do that over a long period of time or a really quick change, but it can be so suffocating and so deep, and then it can be comforting and so many different things. So I think exploring grief is, you know, in all those different forms that you've experienced and still have yet to experience is a really wonderful thing. And knowing you, I know that you don't show that in real life. And so, you know, using objects like the hair monster is our way of showing that to an audience.
When I've gone to tell people about this show and explain the concept of what we're exploring, is you start off with kind of talking about it being a friend who's had this loss, and people's immediate reaction is this, and then I find myself being like, oh, but it's full of joy and it's full of humor. And I think at like its core, this discovery of the fact that to explore death we have to be so connected to life, and it feels like there's a celebration of living and a celebration of life within the play, which has kind of been a discovery in the process that has been like a surprise. The show kind of is holding those things hand in hand as they are.